gradient. Here is my file. Again, I have my template. It's locked down. This time around, I have Tinkerbell directly under the path because this is how we're going to use the mesh tool. And I drew this with the pen tool before I started. Now, as you saw in class, you can use the mesh tool to create the shape, or you can draw out the shape. If you've already drawn out the shape, go ahead and use the mesh tool. Here it is. And just FYI, I double clicked right here and I made this black so I can see what I'm looking at. I'm working in Keyline. So this is a little, you're a little separated from it, but let's give it a try. Here's the mesh tool. If I want to start creating a mesh, I have to click on the path. And just say, hey, and by the way, the moment I do that, this is no longer a simple path the moment that I click on it with the mesh tool. So maybe stow an extra copy of this path. Here, I'll do it here. I'll grab it and pull it down there just in case. I'll just switch that off, and if I don't need it again later, I can throw it away. Oops. So here, let me grab this. Here's my leg. Here's my mesh tool. I'm going to start putting my mesh in. And this is okay. Sometimes when you use the mesh tool on a pre-drawn path, when you don't use the mesh tool to draw the path the way that I showed you in class, sometimes the mesh can get a little, see that? Sometimes the mesh can get a little fraught. A little wackadoodle is the scientific term. But keep going. What you see? Okay, so you see how I accidentally clicked and got these two meshes? I'm going to put my finger on the Option key and get rid of that one. So you can see it changed from a plus to a minus. So I'm going to keep putting in mesh. You have to click on a path, whether it's the internal mesh or the external path outside. You can't just click. Well, I tell a lie. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. You'll get the hang of it. But you see this? So what's happening here is the mesh is coming out past the edge of the path. This is why I like to use the mesh tool to create the path. I showed you that in class. This is all getting a little fraught right here. See how the paths are kind of touching each other? It's because the mesh tool is doing the best it can with the path. Let's soldier on and see where it gets us. All right. So I'm going to go into Keyline, Command Y for Keyline, and I'm going to do my sampling, but I won't see until the end how well it works. Let's go. So for example, I'll click here, and then I will go and get the eyedropper tool, and I will click as close to that point as I can. Now, in an imperfect world, I'd have to go back up again to the direct selection tool and back up again to the eyedropper tool. But Illustrator has a toggle on the keyboard. And so if having picked between those two tools, direct selection tool and the eyedropper tool, now if I put my finger on the Command key, it's to the left of your space bar. I toggle back and forth between the two tools. And so now I'm going to put my trance music on, and then if I take my finger off the Command key, I get the eyedropper. My finger on the Command key, I get the selection tool. Select, click, select, click, select, click. If I need to move down the page, I'll put my finger on the space bar, and that will give me the grabber hand. And then here's another keyboard command for you. Notice how this dot and this dot and this dot are kind of all close to the same color. If I put my finger on the Q key, I get my lasso tool. And if I do have some dots that are close to the same color, I can lasso them and select them all at once. Now, this may come back to bite me in the derriere. Maybe I'm wrong and these aren't as close in color as I think, but I'm going to give it a go. So let me start again. Click. And then I sample, and now that I've used those two tools in succession, I can go in, and I'm just going to work my way all the way around, Command plus to zoom in. See, this is a little fraught, but I'm going to stick with it. And I'm just going to keep clicking and sampling and clicking and sampling. And I think you can see the more accurate your path was at the very beginning, the happier you're going to be here. Now this part is going underneath the shoe. So I'm just going to come back and grab some of this leg. I'll grab some of this leg. This is all going to get tucked up under her shoe, but I'll just do that. Be careful of this space here where this rasterized pixel lies, right? We want to stay away from that. Try and stay as close as you can. Command minus, I'm going to zoom out. I'm not going to worry about any of this nonsense because it's going to get covered by the poof and the shoe, but I'll just come in and get reasonably close. None of this really matters, so finger on the Q key. I'll grab all of this. I'll go get my eyedropper, and then I'll go get my direct selection tool. I'll go get my eyedropper. Now I can go back to my command key. Command sample, command sample, command sample. And I'm just gonna put my trance music on and work my way around. I'm gonna try and get every one of these dots. And let me just go out and I'm gonna hit Command Y. So you can, if I click off so you can see, you can kind of see this taking shape, right? It's a little fiddlier than the freeform mesh tool. In my view, it's slightly more accurate, but as I said in class, there is no wrong answer. If you decide, you decide which one you want for which part. You know, you can, I'm going to go into Command Y again. You can, whatever works. And for the little fiddly stuff like the pom-pom and this detail here on her dress, we're going to use some transparency. We're going to draw some shapes and make some gradients. Just do the big picture stuff, okay? And we'll talk more on Wednesday about using gradients and transparency and blend modes to fill in the rest of this stuff. All right. Now, you can lose your place. I've lost my place because I've been talking this whole time. My suggestion is that you start at the top and work down to the bottom, and that you either start from the left and work across or start from the right. So try and have a method to your madness. Here. So click, move, click, move, click, move. So you can see there's a kind of softness there. And in here, you know, I might need to add more mesh. If I'm not, let me just do this. If I turn this off, see how I can kind of see that it's working or it's not. If you feel like, well, there's too much of a drop off, or I'm not describing enough of that color change, you can always go into the mesh gradient tool and add another mesh. Or conversely, if you've put too many meshes in, you can put your finger on the option key and click and get rid of an extra mesh. All right? And then you can go in and keep working. Time is the secret ingredient. Slack or email me with questions.